Veronica and welcome to Jersey City Pilates. For today's class, you're going to need a yoga block, or if you don't have one, a book similar size, something that you can stand on and use to hold on between your knees or your feet as well. We are going to do some flexion and some extension in this class. However, if you are pregnant, this class is safe. I will offer some modifications along the way, provided that you have sign off from your doctor to exercise, and if it feels bad for anyone, just stop, modify, don't keep going and push through pain. There's no point, and we'll get started. You're gonna come to stand on your mat with your block or your book if you don't have a block, just in between your feet so that your big toes and your ankle bone are touching the block. And then just feel your feet underneath you and feel your toes and ankle bones kind of pressing into the block ever so gently. And then you're just going to shift your weight forward and shift your weight back. And just breathing at your own pace, whatever inhaling and exhaling feels right. But try to keep your feet on the ground, your whole foot. And then find that place in the middle where you're standing on your whole foot. And just notice if you're kind of internally rotating, you're putting more weight into your toes, the inner side of your foot, the pinky side of your foot, or maybe the front or the back. None of that really matters, except to try to find the place where you can be the most supported on your feet. And then from here, you can bring your hands to your hips, leave them by your side, whatever you want, bring them out to the side. And then you're just gonna come up onto your heels, but keep your big toes connected to the block or book. And then just feel the crown of your head reach up towards the ceiling, and then slowly lower back down. Let your heels and ankle bones really try to skim the block as you lower. And then again, come up onto your toes. Feel your toes spread nice and wide. So you're really using all 10 of them, and lower yourself again back down. Just check in on your pelvis, make sure that you're not arching or rounding your back as you lift and lower. We're gonna do one more like this. And then from here, you can have your hands on your hips, or you're just going to bring your arms in front of you, your choice. You're just gonna sit back into a squat. And then just take a second here, make sure that the block hasn't moved. It's still facing forward, your toes are forward, your knees are forward, and your hip bones are still pointing forward. And then you're just gonna stand all the way back up. And then we're gonna squat again. And again, when you're down in your squat, pause, look at your legs, making sure that everything is in a nice alignment, and stand all the way up. If you find that your feet are too narrow, you can turn your block long ways, or you can just step with your feet wider, it doesn't matter. But making sure you're using your whole foot as you stand. And I found that my feet kind of scrunched up a little, just readjust them. And then you're gonna keep doing about 3 more squats. Just noticing the hinge at your hip, your torso coming forward slightly, the widening of your sitting bones as you sit back, keeping your ribs to hips connection, just making sure you're not arching your low back at all. 2 more. Last one. And then you're gonna stand all the way up and bring your right foot on top of your prop. And then from here, bring your hands onto the very tops of your hips. So just find where your hips are. And then you're gonna stand up and come onto your toe on the left foot where your hips are still square. And you have to do this mostly by feel, unless you have a mirror that you're looking at, or I can see myself in the window, which is nice. And then flex that left foot so that you are standing evenly on both feet, meaning your hips are square. And then you're just gonna descend the left hip, the left leg towards the floor. The right hip may rise slightly, and then pull it back up so that your hips are nice and square. And then just let that left leg fall, and then bring it back up. And for me, I noticed that I'm actually hiking my right hip to make my left hip go down, but you may be able to find that length in your left side rather than the hike of the right hip. Neither are bad, just noticing what you're doing. Soft bend in that right foot. Obviously, this is also a nice little balance challenge. One more. And then pause here at the top. Bring your left foot down to the floor. And with your right foot still on the block, have your feet hip distance or so. You're going to sit back into a squat and then stand all the way back up. Noticing the difference in your hips as you have one leg lifted, and just how differently the squat feels. We're gonna do 4 more. 3, 2. Same thing, knees are pointing forward, toes forward, hips forward. Your head is forward. Last one, and then stand all the way up. And then you're gonna slide the block over to your left side and place your left foot on top. Again, find your hips where they're nice and even, and then pull that right foot off the ground. And then from here, you're just gonna let that right leg descend or left hip lift. And this can be as big or small a movement as feels good. 5 more. Just breathing. 4, 3, 2. And last one. And then bring that leg out. Find your hip distance position. And then squat down, make sure your toes are pointing forward, and then stand all the way up. And then again, squat down for 7. 6, pressing evenly through both feet. 5, 4, 3, always adjust in the middle if you need. 2, and last one. Good. And then step off the block, shake out your legs for a moment. And then you have 2 choices. You can do this on the floor or standing on the block. I'm going to stand on the block, just give myself a little bit of extra space. I'm gonna bring my hands back on my hips. And now my left foot is on again. Sorry, right foot is on this time. Hips are nice and square. And then I'm just gonna hinge at the hip on my right side and bring that left leg up into tabletop. And then just let that leg lower, but the hip stays up and in line with the right hip. And then lower down. Neck is nice and aligned. Try to look straight forward ahead of you if you can. Hold on to something, obviously, if you need. If you want to make this harder, close your eyes. 3 more. 2. Last one, leave the leg lifted. And then you're just gonna externally rotate that leg out to the side, just so it is in line with the corner of your hip bone, and then resist to bring it back to the center, find your parallel alignment. And then out to the side, keeping your leg square, in a parallel position. So you're not internally or externally rotating the thigh. You are just moving the leg laterally and the hip. 3 more. 2. Crown of the head is nice and long. You blend through the neck. 2. Last one, I can't count, sorry. And then pause with the leg here. And then bring the leg so that you're standing like a flamingo. And then you're gonna externally rotate the leg and then rotate the leg back to neutral. And then externally rotate the leg. You'll feel a little squeeze in your glute and then rotate back to neutral. So pretty much your foot is staying mostly still in space. Your hips are pointing forward. The connection between your ribs and your hips is very much a thing. You're not arching your low back. You're just externally rotating and bring to neutral. And rotate and neutral, last one. Lower that leg down, step towards the floor. Shake your feet out, shake your legs out if you need. And then we're gonna come to the other side. So now your left leg will be on the block. Find your nice neutral position, and then hinge at the knee, hinge at the hip to come up, and then let that leg lower, and float it right back up. Again, hold on if you need for balance. Think about softening of your abdominals as you bring your leg up. Ribs drawing towards one another. 4 more. You can always bring your finger into your crease of your hip and feel it get a little squeeze from your thigh as you bring the leg up. 2. Last one, leave the leg lifted. And now you're just gonna rotate, or not rotate, move the leg laterally out to the side and then bring it back to the center. Trying to keep your thigh at the same height. Hips stay pointing forward. You're not rotating through the pelvis. 3 more. 2. Make sure you're using that whole left leg, whole left foot, and you have a little bend in that left leg. Last one. Come down until you're standing like a flamingo, and then you're gonna externally rotate and center. Just externally rotating through the femur and center. For 6. 5, checking on your hips. Is your low back arching? 5. 1 more. 3. 2. Last one. And then bring the knee down, lower the leg, shake the feet out, and then you are going to bring your block up towards the front of your mat, and you're gonna come bring your hands on either side of it, knees underneath your hips, hands underneath your shoulders, and then just tuck your tailbone under around your spine up towards the ceiling, draw your hips up towards your ribs, and press through the hands to the shins, to the tops of the feet. Let your head go, no tension in your neck. And then uncurl through the spine, 1 vertebrae at a time. And then finding length through your upper back, even more so than your low back. Thinking about opening up through the front of the chest, through the collarbones, like you're trying to show someone right in front of you your necklace. And then press with the hands again, round the spine up towards the ceiling. And then coming back through the other way. Ribs and hips are connected, so you're not dumping through your low back, just letting your stomach hang towards the floor, round the spine up towards the ceiling. 1 more time here. And then press the knees wide and then sit back into a child's pose. Reach your hands forward. You can bring your head onto your block if that feels good. We're just gonna stay here for a minute. Take a big inhale. And then exhale. Feel your chest descend towards the floor, your sitting bones towards your heels. 1 more big inhale. And then exhale. And you're gonna come back up. You are going to bring your block underneath your right knee. And you can either keep your toes tucked under like mine are right now, and so your foot will float off the ground, or you're gonna tuck your toes under and help anchor your right leg through your toes. You are going to extend your left leg back behind you. You may need to readjust the arms, make sure that your shoulders are still right underneath you, and then you're gonna float your left leg up and then tap it back down. Just giving yourself a little extra balance. Challenge here being on the block. Little softness through the knees, not the knees, sorry, the elbows. If this is too much on your right knee, you are welcome to put a towel or fold your mat over the top of it. You're gonna do 2 more leg lifts here. Make sure your weight isn't sunk all the way over to the right side. Last one, keep the leg lifted and then bend the knee in and then extend long. Keeping the torso nice and stable. Bend that leg and extend. Kind of just a different plane of a similar motion that we were doing standing on the block a moment ago. 4 more. Engaging through the abdominals, neck is nice and long. 3, 2. Last one. Tap the leg down on the left side, but keep it long. And now you're gonna extend your right arm and then lift opposite arm and leg. If you can, try to lift the toes on that left side. And if this is too much, tuck your toes under. I have no idea what's gonna work for me today. I'll start with it lifted. You're gonna round and bring your arm towards your elbow and then extend long. And then round. You don't need to touch your arm and elbow, knee and elbow. They don't need to touch, who cares? Use your foot to stabilize you if you need, but you can round your spine and extend. We're gonna do 4 more. 3, making sure the hips are nice and square. 2. Last one. Extend, lower the right arm, bring the left leg to the floor, and then just slide the block in between your knees. So I have the block the short, wide way, right in between my knees and the tops of my shins. And I'm gonna tuck my toes under, and I'm just gonna reach back through my heels and pick the block up. And then place the block back down, place the knees down. So as you squeeze through the inner thighs to quite literally hold onto the block, thinking about lifting through the pelvic floor, through the abdominals, exhale, float the block up. And then lower it down. We're gonna do 4 more just like this. Inhale, and then exhale, lift up. And inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. 2 more. Working through the whole leg. Nothing can get away when you have to squeeze onto a block. And then lower all the way down. Untuck your toes. Find length through your spine if you lost it. And then you're just gonna let your sternum drop towards the floor. Your shoulder blades come toward your spine, and then press your spine up in between your shoulders. Chest lifts away from the floor. And then let your spine fall between the scapula. And then press up. And then slide them together and up. These sternum drops or sternum push-ups, whatever you want to call them, should feel nice, a little way to engage all the muscles around the shoulder girdle. Last one. Pause at the top. And then you're gonna bend the elbows back towards your knees, but you're staying in all fours. And you're just gonna bend your torso down towards the floor and then press through the hands and lift up. Find length through the crown of the head. Check in with your lower back. Make sure you're not arching and are supporting your stomach as you lower down. Press down. Press through the whole hand. Open up through the elbows. Think about the elbows coming back. Neck is long. And lift 5 more. I find exhaling on the up is helpful. It's amazing how something in all fours can be so challenging. Really think about lengthening the arms to the elbow as you come up, and that will help to not hyperextend your elbow. Last one. And then press all the way up. And then come back off your wrists for a second while you slide that block over to the left, and your left leg is gonna come, or left knee rather, is gonna come onto the block now. So to start, you're just gonna keep your hands down. Left foot can be lifted or toes curled under, your choice. And then you're just gonna start with a lower and lift of that right leg now, nice and straight. Thinking about keeping the hips nice and square if you need. Take a look down at your hips to make sure they are in fact square. 4 more. Not 4 more, 6 more. Checking in on your abdominals, Now 2 more. Last one, pressing through the whole hand, making sure that your middle of your hand is lifting. And then bend the knee in and extend. Bend the knee and extend. If you find that this is too much pressure in your wrists, you can double your mat over so that the heel of your hand is higher than your knuckles and fingers. That generally helps relieve some of the pressure. 2 more. Last one. And then lower that leg down, keep it straight. Square yourself off with that right hand and left leg. Extend the left arm, lift the right leg, and then around and bring them in. And then extend. Again, your choice on your foot positioning, whether you want a little extra support or not. Either way, it's not easy because it's something different. Ooh. 4 more. 3. 2. Last one. Extend, lower all the way down, and then move your block long ways. And if you have 2 blocks with you, you can just put them side by side and put one knee on each block. Mine's in the other room, so I'm just gonna use the one. So I'm gonna have it long ways, short. And I'm gonna bring both my knees onto the block. If you have 2 books, you can do this with 2 books as well, or 1 book, just turn it long ways. And then tuck the tailbone under, round the spine up towards the ceiling. Use your toes for support here. And then just come into that slight extension. And then round the spine up towards the ceiling. You may find that with your knees elevated, this feels different. You get a little bit of extra space in the front of your hips. And then one more time. And then square yourself off, come into a nice long all fours, and then sit back on your heels. Move your block out of the way. Actually, take it in your hands. We will do it this way. You're gonna come to sit towards the front of your mat, covered in polio. Okay. Legs can be long or feet planted, your choice. And you're going to put your block or book right in between your knees. If you have your legs long, put the block just floating off the floor, still in between your knees. Your other option is to put it in between your feet, your choice. But if you have your knees bent, just put it in between your knees. Extend your arms long or hold on behind the thighs, your choice. Sit up nice and tall. Think about finding length through both the front and back of your body, and then curl your tailbone under, finding that space in the front of your thighs and your hips. Again, arms are long or behind your thighs. And then just come down another inch, feeling your sacrum widen as you roll back, and then come up halfway. And then roll back down. Again, your hands can be behind your thighs as well. And then come up halfway. 3 more. Really breathing and focusing on your abdominal connection, making sure that you don't have that dome in the front of your stomach. Last one. Pause here. Extend your arms long, and you're just gonna give little squeezes on that block for 10, 9, 8, through the pelvic floor, through the inner thighs, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold the squeeze and then pulse up for 8, 7, very tiny, 5, 4, I can't count, 3, 2, last one, and then roll all the way down. Keep the block in between your knees, plant your feet on the floor. If you need to move the block to a wider position to accommodate your hips, by all means do so. Hands on the floor, and then just pressing into the floor, Find space in the front of your chest across the collarbones, and then tuck the tailbone under, gently press into your feet. Feel yourself find your nice scooped or imprint position. Low back pressing into the floor, hips drawing up towards your ribs, and your ribs drawing towards one another. And then release. And then again, finding that neutral, and release. 4 more just like this. We won't spend too much time in this position at the moment. 2. And last one. Good. Find the scoop if that feels good for you. If not, find your neutral position. Feel the ribs draw towards one another. The back ribs are pressing into the mat. And then hold on to that block with the inner thighs, the pelvic floor. Keeping everything still, you're just gonna lift the right leg off the floor. And then lower that right leg down. Alternating sides, noticing how much your body wants to weight shift. You can also lift your head for a second and just watch what your legs are doing, if they want to slide from one side to the other. 1 more time to each side. Good. And then you can stay on your back as we just were. You can come up onto your forearms, which is what I'm going to do, or you can curl your head under, curl your neck up, bring your hands behind your head in a supported position. But either way, you're going to take a nice big inhale, and then exhale. Feel yourself start to squeeze and connect to that block. Take 1 more inhale, and then on your next exhale, float both legs up to tabletop with that block between your thighs. And then you're going to keep holding onto the block. Feel like your pelvic floor is now holding onto the block. And then lift the legs up. So just lowering and lifting, 2 to 3 inches. Really keeping an eye on your abdominals, whether it's a literal eye or a hand on your stomach. And you can make your range of motion as tiny as you need. 4 more. 2. Pressing up, away from the floor, neck is long. Neck is long regardless of where you're at, but pressing away from the floor if you're on your forearms. Last one. And then lower your legs down to the floor. You're gonna take that block out, find whatever position you prefer, and then you're gonna bring one leg into tabletop, and then externally rotate that leg. And then float the other leg up into tabletop, and externally rotate that leg, and glue your heels together. So your knees are in line with your toes, your hips are still pointing forward, and you're just gonna extend your legs long. The backs of your knees, your calves, your thighs will find each other, and then bend and resist to come back in. Keep the heels connected. Feel like the squeeze of the heels is coming all the way from the tops of your legs or your pelvic floor even. Exhale and feel your abdominals descend. Full squeeze through the legs for 5. 4, again, your head can be lifted. 3, 2, last one, keep the legs bent. And then from here, you're just gonna rotate them to parallel and then externally rotate. And then rotate towards parallel and externally rotate. So you're holding your legs in the same position, almost like the thigh master kind of move, but really focusing on that smooth rotation through the pelvis. Again, you can be any position with your upper body, paying attention to what your abdominals are doing for 6, 5, 4 more. 2 more. And last one, bring your knees into your chest and gently rock back and forth from one side to the other. Bring your hands behind your thighs and press your hands into your thighs, press your thighs into your hands. Keep your head on the floor, but find space in the front of your legs. And then lower your right leg and lower your left leg down. Grab your block and place it back between your knees. We're gonna do a little bit of bridging. And then we'll come onto our sides. Again, find that space across your chest, lengthen through the neck, press into the feet gently, have them not so far away from your butt, and then your hips, knees, and ankles and toes are all in a line and all facing the same direction. If you need at any point, lift your head up to check. Curl the tailbone under, one vertebrae at a time. You're gonna peel yourself up off the floor. Feel your heels draw back towards your shoulders to engage the backs of the legs, and then peel yourself back down. And really try to roll through your entire spine. So if you find that you have like a sticky spot where you're not touching the ground once, you can kind of roll back and forth in that spot a couple of times, getting a little light squeeze on the block. And peel back down. 2 more. This should mostly just feel very good. I mean, engagement obviously through the legs as well, but nice on the spine. We're gonna pause at the top. And then again, keeping those legs long, we're gonna drop the hips and lift. Think about reaching long through the knees and the thighs as you lift the hips and then lower back down. If you want a little extra challenge, bring your arms up towards the ceiling. Keep your base of support wide though. So try to find a little bit of broadness across your back and in the front of your chest. Your shoulders are dropped down towards the floor. Not pressing you away, but just down. 3 more. 2. Last one, pause at the top. Bring your hands down if you'd like. Lower your hips to whatever height you need, and then you're gonna float the right leg up just like we did before. And then lower that leg down. Float the left leg up. And down. Peeking at your toes to make sure that they are pointing in the correct direction and not like weird out to the side. Out to the side is okay, but not when that's not what we're trying to do. Breathing here. I need to lower my hips. 2 more. If you find you're not breathing or you're like really pressing into your stomach, like holding on for dear life, lower your hips. It'll make your life a lot easier. And I promise you're still working plenty hard. Last one to each side. If you need that challenge, bring your arms up towards the ceiling. Last one. And then peel yourself all the way back down. Bring your knees into your chest. Hold on behind your thighs. And you can rock yourself up, or you can come onto your side and press yourself up. Whichever works for you. Go ahead and grab your block, and you can place it right in the middle of one end of your mat and have it tall. And the skinniest way is, or no, the skinny way is the same as your mat. If you have it the wide way, you have to move your leg more, you'll know it's not in the right spot. And then come down onto your side. Place your right foot on top of the block and bring your left foot your left foot on top of the block and your right foot in front of the block if you're on your right side. Your bottom leg in front of the block. Press your top hand into the floor. Take a nice big breath. And then exhale. Feel yourself sink into the floor, but then your ribs connect towards your hips. So you little draw into your abdominals, length through the low back. And just make sure that your leg is more or less in line through your hip on the top leg. Neck is in line with your spine, so you're not all rounded forward. And then from here, you're just gonna press your top leg into the block, lift your bottom leg, lower down. Rest and lift, and lower down. If this is uncomfortable on your hip bone, fold your mat in half or grab a blanket or a towel to put underneath your hip. You can also maybe roll slightly back off the hip, where your hips are still generally facing forward, but that may give you a little relief as well. Your hip bones are pointing forward. 3 more. 2. Last one. Let your bottom leg come down. Top leg lifts. Taps the block and lifts. Breathing here. top arm can stabilize you. For 4, 3, 2, last one. And then you're gonna lift both legs. So the bottom leg comes to the top of the block, the top leg lifts, and then lower back down. Lift both legs and lower. Lift and lower. Use that top arm for support as much as you need. If you need to shorten your range of motion, absolutely do so for 4, 3, 2, last one. Lower the bottom leg and then bend it underneath you. Top leg is gonna lift. You can point or flex, doesn't matter. You're gonna lower the leg in the back of the block and then lift it up and over and tap in front of the block. And then lift and lift. So you're making your range of motion like triple the size. You might be going higher and then you're also going forward and back. Really focusing on what your torso is doing, staying connected through the front of your body, not arching through the low back, and keeping the hip bones pointed forward. Sorry if Julio was in the way and you can't see very well. I apologize. I'll trade for the other direction. 2 more. Last one. And back. And then bend that knee in, and then press yourself up. Separate your knees slightly, and then side bend up and over towards your legs. Move your block out of the way for a moment. We're just gonna do 1 set of side plank things. Your bottom leg is going to be on the floor. You're gonna come onto your hand or your forearm, your choice. I lied, we're gonna do side planks at the end. We'll do them from a different position. All right, come on to your opposite side. So block towards one end of your mat, and then you're gonna come to lay on your left side. Your bottom leg will be in front of the block and your top leg on top. Adjust the block as much as you need. Your hip bones are facing forward. And then you're just gonna press your top leg into the block, feeling the engagement through the inner thigh, possibly through the glute and hamstring as well. Top arm is pressing into the floor to give you support. Neck is nice and long. Lift the bottom leg and lower. And lift. And lift. This is a very sleepy dog in front of me. I'm impressed he hasn't moved. 4 more. Ribs are drawing towards one another. Ribs to hips are also connected. Last one, lower that leg down. Let the left leg rest, lift the top leg. And lower, and lift, and lower. 7. 5, hips stay square. You're also not really hiking the hip, you're keeping them pretty much in line with one another for 4, 3, 2, last one, release that leg down. Now you're gonna lift both legs at the same time and down, and lift, and down, making sure you're breathing, and down. You shouldn't have like tension too much in your abdominals as you lift. If you do, make your range of motion smaller for 4, and breathe, because you're probably holding your breath. 3, 2, last one, lower down, bend the bottom leg underneath you. Lift the top leg up. You're gonna touch it down behind the block, lift it up, touch it in front, and behind, and in front. And if it doesn't go all the way to the floor, who cares? No one can see it. You probably can't even see it because your leg is behind you and your spine is in a nice long line. For 4, 3, 2, leg is staying parallel to the front. Last one, lower down, bend the knees, press up, press yourself up. Separate your knees and side bend up and over towards your legs. grab onto your block, and you're gonna place it down towards your feet, and then you're gonna come towards a plank position. And regardless of what plank position you're gonna be in, full plank, on your hands and feet, kneeling plank, or on your forearms, it doesn't matter, we're gonna do the same thing. So, I am going to find a nice plank on my knees. Tuck your tailbone under, find that length through the front of your spine, almost like we had in our upper backs in all fours before. Soft bend through the elbows. If you would like to lift the legs, you're gonna curl the knees up, lengthen through the backs of the heels. From this position, we're just gonna rotate up and open to the right. Hold the side plank here, and then slowly rotate back to the center. And then rotate over to the left. Our hips are gonna open up with us, so the hips stay facing just to the left, and then they're gonna rotate and face back to the floor. If you're on your knees, you're just gonna lift your top leg, and then back to the center. Either way, taking care not to fall back to the center, really controlling the lift, the twist of the hips, the opening of the chest, and then finding a nice plank in the middle. We're gonna do 2 more on each side. And if you wanna be like me, you can alternate if you're doing your arms or your knees, because I can't decide what feels better today. 1 more to each side. Last one. Don't fall back. Come to the center. Hold your plank. Find that extension, tuck the tailbone under, bend your elbows back toward your hips, lower down into that push-up, and lift for 8. 7. If you want to come into the push-up we did before, just bring your knees underneath your hips. Nothing else changes. For 4. 3. 2. Last one. Press your knees wide. Come back into a child's pose. And then reach your hands over the left. Find all the salt you spilled on the floor yesterday. And then come back through the center, over to the right. Leo, I'm sorry, you have to move. Reach long through the fingertips on both sides, so you're getting length through both sides of your body and not just one. And then come to the center, grab your block. You're gonna place your block on the floor in between your heels, and you can pick which height you have, whether you're the tall height or the lower height, but give yourself space. Knees can come wide, and then find a child's pose 1 more time. Just with that little extra support, you may need to angle it. And think about your sitting bones reaching back into the block. Take 1 more breath here. And then you can move your block out of the way, curl your toes under, press your hands into the floor, and find a down dog. Bend your knees a whole bunch if you need again, toes, knees, hips, all facing the same direction. Fingertips as well this time. And then slowly walk yourself back. And then find length through the neck. Let your chest find your thighs. Take your head out if you need. Really think about lengthening through the crown of your head to give your neck a little rest. And then bend your knees a whole bunch. Arms are heavy, head is heavy. Curl your tailbone under, round yourself up 1 vertebrae at a time. Keep the knees soft as you stack your hips over your knees, over your heels, your ribs over your hips, shoulders over the ribs, and then your head nice and tall. Come up onto your toes, just like we did in the beginning of class. Float your hands up. Externally rotate the arms. Press down as you lower the heels. Thinking about keeping the height that you just had from Coming onto the toes, lower your arms all the way down by your sides. Take a nice big inhale and then exhale. You are all finished. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, thanks.
Thank
See you next time.